more than just a photographer, right? You've got to be interested in lots of things.
You've got to have a curiosity for the world.
You know, my influences have been paintings.
Yeah.
Much more. My house is full of paintings. That's one of my pictures. Up here I've got a few of mine. That's one of my pictures.
Oh, wow.
That one is one of my pictures.
Oh, wow. They've got a really painterly quality, haven't they?
It's a good profession for a woman, partly because as a photographer people are not scared. You know, she gets away with... My daughter always says, Mum, you get away, you know, with photographing people. They don't mind. That's the point. When I photograph, I dress down. Right? I don't want to wear anything that might attract attention.
Make you stand out, yeah.
Or...
Perhaps that goes back to you saying that you didn't like to be photographed by your father. You always like to be behind the lens.
No, I just didn't think I was good looking. Being vain. That was the reason. Okay, and what is wonderful, that even the Tate now has accepted photography. For years and years they didn't, but they now do. They now collect photography. And there was an exhibition quite recently, another London, at Tate Britain. I had... somebody had bought my pictures and given them to the Tate. And they said it was one of the most successful exhibitions they've had, you know.
Wow.
What message can I get to a photographer? You've got to be passionate about it. Don't just say, I'll take it.
It's got to be your world.
Yeah. When you take, if you want to do something, that's nothing to do with family pictures.
Do you think it's because you're drawn to a certain instance that you want to capture that memory forever because you want to show that memory to others?
But now I'll tell you the difference. You see, my kind of photography is that.
Yeah.
But with your digital, you can
alter it afterwards.
So it's not anymore what attracted me. A moment preserved.
It's not the truth of the moment in time. It's something.
For me, that was the instant.
Yeah.
If I saw something, either people or I have done some very interesting still lives up here.
Do you think memory is purely linked to our aesthetic surroundings, or do you think like memory is, you know, every one of the senses, so you try and capture in your photographs every one of the senses you were feeling in that given moment?
That would be too much to say. I never take a photograph unless I feel I want to take it. And I'm lucky I can do it.
Yeah.
If you are a photojournalist, you can't do it. And I'm not bad at that either. But for me, the whole essence of my photography is something that I have an image which years later, like this one here, I can look at and say, that was rather beautiful, right?
Yeah, it's incredible.
So, these other pictures are very photojournalistic. They're okay, they capture a moment. And don't forget, our photography is part of history. Since I've taken it all over the world, and you look at them now, the world has changed a great deal. The New York that I went to and photographed, my husband got a job there, so I was able to go and photograph by myself. I went everywhere without being afraid. It's also different now. And you look at the pictures, and this is part of the history, you see. It's quite important, you see. Don't forget, as an artist, you can draw and imagine what you... For my kind of photography, it's got to be there.
Yeah.
In reality, transfigured by the way you see it. And the light.
Yeah, I was going to say that a lot of your colour photographs have that kind of golden tinge to them. Do you think that's something...
Do you know that when I had my exhibition at the Carnavalet, which, do you know, in Paris, it's the most important... they gave me a lovely show, and the Parisians said, we always thought of Paris as a grey city. extraordinary.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's like you've managed to weave their dreams into the city and show it to them that it's actually existing before their eyes.
But shall I tell you one thing which I find very important? For me, the fact that the curator of photography at the Carnavalet felt that I had portrayed her city. They now got well over 100 pictures, and the Bibliothèque Nationale has also got some of my other photographs from the rest of France. I photographed everywhere. And when we had the exhibition, the Parisians loved it. Now that's important.
Very important, because you've captured the heart, the essence.
And when I photographed Venice, I did a book on Venice, which is so out of print now. I spent a year in and out of Venice. By that time I was working in colour only. And there was a bookshop there, and the chap said it was 3 generations of bookshops. So I said, do you mind if I show you some of my pictures that I'm doing for a book for Thames and Hudson? I'd like to know whether I've caught the reality of it. I gave him about 24 of the pictures, left them for a few days, came back. I was younger then, he was an old man. He hugged me and he said, you've made me love my city all over again. And you see, that was a tremendous compliment, that you're taking something that's real. And I think partly because my own life was so fractured in some ways, you know. Most of you are born somewhere and the rest of your life you spend in the country. That I'm able to.
So the feeling that the moments that are precious need to last in a way, because it's been fractured, and so the thing, you don't want them to sort of disintegrate by time, you want them to stay.
Now, Ian Jeffrey, who's probably the most influential photo historian, I said to him, I'd like to be like Manuel Alvarez Bravo, who when he goes to Arles, a Mexican, he photographs cacti there. And I said, I wish I could belong somewhere to the same extent. And he said, Dorothy, don't you realize the fact that you are able to take all these different places in your particular way is a great advantage.
Yeah.
But still, it's better to be born and not to be.
But I was going to say, you've lived in a lot of places and you've travelled.
Ask me what influenced me is looking at paintings and at early films. Fellini's film La Strada I lived in Paris and had just come out. I loved it. I saw it 10 times. And I told all my friends to go and see it. And later on, many of the avant-garde films.
Yeah.
Even now, a good film is worth seeing. And film has been quite an influence on me. And after college, I remember, I had a possibility of joining a film company, but it would have meant going abroad. And by that time, the man who wanted to marry me said, don't go. And I'm not sorry. It's very much teamwork.
Yeah.
So what I like is the possibility of independently working.
Yeah, being your own boss.
Yes, no, it's good.
Artistic practice before, you know, painted or drawn or anything.
As you see in my home, it's full of
paintings. So you
Monica,
understand the eye, isn't it?
And Monica, my art historian, daughter, said she had to become an art historian because she grew up in a house full of art books, and I've always been very interested in art. But temperamentally, I think photography suited me extremely well.
And you've never ever tried?
You know that many of my friends, many of them are artists.
Yes.
They like my photography.
Yeah, I can see, because your photography is a form of art. I wanted to ask you about that, actually.
If you don't judge by this, have a look at the catalogue.
Yeah, I will intend to.
The trouble is, I'd like to give you one. Both of you ought to have one. Trouble is it's going out of print. Anyhow, let's see.
Um,
So photography I learned professionally, which is very good, because many of the great photographers didn't do what I did. I processed all my own work. The first job I got, the first day, I was told to develop some prints, and I thought, oh, it's easy, do them all like that. They were all wrong. So it taught me the difference between doing it at college and doing it professionally.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyhow, for 3 years I had a job in Manchester, in the Market Street, and this was during the war. At one time I actually volunteered for the Women's Army, and they asked me what I was doing, and I said, I'm a photographer, and they said, that's a very important job to keep up the morale of the people. Stay in your job. So that was it. And it was, I mean, that must have been good. I did so.
Well, absolutely. Hampstead has been your continual home.
Yes.
What kind of drew you to the area to begin with?
What did I?
What drew you to Hampstead to begin with? Why did you decide to settle in Hampstead?
Well, we knew Hampstead's reputation for artists and writers, and it was cosmopolitan even then.
Yeah.
So we didn't live handsomely like this. We had very little money. We lived in Linfield Gardens in a small flat. Okay, my husband, as it happens, did all this is not because I made money in photography. I always spent more money on photography than I made. My prints now are selling, but that's not important to me, fortunately not. So Hampstead, yes, I remember going to Coffee Cup, and it was then run by a very English, it was really Coffee Cup, and now it's fantastic. Do you know that people really are the same, of the same type of person?
Yeah.
People who are interested in the arts, whether they're French or Norwegian or Swedish or American, are the people that are of interest to one, you see. So
you think the creative atmosphere still remains in the area? You think that people who are creative or have that in them naturally get drawn to an area like Hampstead?
Yes, I think so. The trouble is, of course, that it also attracts people who have a lot of money.
Yeah.
But Burgh House, for example, you see, the sort of people who've gone there with openings are interesting people. And that's important. And we must keep that up, you know. I think that creativity is an extremely important part of one's life. Not money, not possessions.
So do you feel like because of the influx of what we were saying before about chain shops and the high street becoming more just repeats of other towns, do you feel that it causes the creative energy to kind of be lost a little bit and in decline?
And no, I think if you've got that creative energy, it's part of you.
Do you think it's something about the landscape of Hampstead? You know, the heath and the natural.
Well, first of all, as I said to you, the history of Hampstead. I mean, it's got a fantastic history, even in this street. The list of people, the house, next to one is H.G. Wells. Constable is buried there, you see.
Yeah.
It's got that. To me, that matters.
Very much so.
The sort of people that I meet are the people I'm interested in.
They've got an interesting story to tell.
Oh, absolutely, yes. It's quite an amazing thing how many, and not refugees, a lot of them, Henry Moore was here, and a lot of English who enjoyed mixing with those who came from other places.
It's like an open-mindedness and a freeness, I think, as well, to allow ideas in.
Yes. No, it's a good place, and I am extremely lucky to be living here. Okay.
To do a lot of portrait shots. Is there kind of are there particular characters in Hampstead that you really recall being drawn to?
Or? I had a possibility of photographing quite a lot of famous people.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I won't mention names. I wasn't interested. Because first of all, they are photographed an awful lot and they have already a photographic face, right? I was interested in the ordinary people. I think that's quite important to recall when I think to myself, why didn't I photograph so-and-so? André Kertész, I knew, came and sat here and he thought it was like being in a bird's nest and so on. I knew quite a lot of people. Lee Miller, for example.
Oh, wow.
Interesting personality.
Really?
Of course, they lived here, you know. You've got a list of the people who lived.
Yes, yeah.
And there are many, many more.
Yeah.
Amazing, yes. So I'm interested in the portraits of every man, let's put it there. And the portraits, incidentally, Taschen, the big publisher, has done a book on London. Have you seen it?
I think I have, yeah. It's
Well,
got
they
kind
came
of
to see
illustrated
me
cover,
and put 2 of my pictures in there. And there's going to be a calendar. One of my London pictures will be in the CS calendar. And those are pictures of a woman that I photographed years ago who must have been very beautiful, but by now was quite sad, and she was selling dolls, and that picture has been published everywhere, you know. It's the everyman that I'm interested in, the person who's got a personality, okay? And if I've taken somebody who was poor and not well, I did it out of sympathy, not because I wanted to. There was a woman I photographed that's been also done, published quite a lot. A woman sitting in front in Chelsea of a bag shop, and she was sitting, poor thing. And that picture too, because I told a story. So when I photograph, I must have sympathy. Let's put it that way, right? And I'm good at women, but I think I'm pretty good at photographing men as well. Just to sum up, I've been very lucky that I was able to study photography and to be able to use it. First, of course, I earned my living, you know, at the age of 21 in Manchester, when I had my own studio. And at 21 in 1945, that was not a usual thing. But for me, I had to make a living. I did this in order to enable the man I had married to carry on studying for a PhD. So I was the breadwinner, and I'm still proud of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I worked very hard, actually, in the studio, but it was good. And when I had my exhibition in Manchester, it was very funny. People came up to me and said, you know, it's been an interesting life. I was asked, incidentally, quite early on, under 45, in the 40s, to come back to the college and teach the soldiers who were coming back, had been photographers, but needed to relearn.
Yeah.
You see, that was interesting too, actually. So I've been very much involved, but in lots of other things too, you know.
Yeah.
Film.